Everything is spiraling as Donald Trump appears to concede to Russia, and global reaction is intense over what many see as a betrayal. His ongoing conflict with Iran continues to deteriorate for the United States. Trump rants aggressively and erratically. He keeps targeting NATO. He continues criticizing Ukraine. Russia's special envoy to the United States and Sovereign Wealth Fund leader, Kel Dmitry, recently posted goodbye NATO with a dove emoji while Trump keeps attacking the alliance. Many observers believe Russia is celebrating the possibility of the U.S. leaving NATO. At the Midas Touch Network, we have covered similar moments before. In one report, we explained how Trump's blockade strategy collapsed. Trump claimed he was enforcing a blockade on Cuba, preventing Mexico, Colombia, and other nations from delivering oil and humanitarian aid. However, when Vladimir Putin sent Russian tankers, Trump allowed them through. Putin was then seen as a hero in Cuba for delivering oil, while Trump blocked U.S. allies from helping. Trump had insisted no one would be allowed to provide aid, yet he made an exception for Russia. In another report, we covered Trump easing sanctions on Russia. This allowed Russia to generate massive revenue from oil sales. Trump also lifted sanctions on previously restricted Russian vessels. Additionally, Trump and MAGA Republicans invited key figures from Russia's Duma to Washington, D.C. They toured the Capitol, met with the State Department, and held high-level discussions with Republican lawmakers. The situation continues to worsen. Due to Trump's approach, including his meeting with Japan's Prime Minister Takaishi and the impact of the Iran conflict on oil supply, Japan now faces serious energy concerns. With sanctions on Russia lifted, Japan is preparing to purchase large amounts of Russian oil. This shift is significant. When viewed together, the pattern becomes clear. Japan's Prime Minister recently met with Trump. Trump then removed sanctions, strengthening Russia economically. Reports indicate Japan is preparing to engage directly with Russian officials. Journalist Tarano Takashi reports that Japan is organizing efforts to access Russian resources, with a delegation expected to meet Russian representatives soon. This appears to be enabled by Trump's policies. According to sources in Kyoto, Japan plans to send an economic mission to Russia. The goal is to restore business operations after the conflict in Ukraine. Major companies, including Mitsubishi, have been invited to participate. A visit is planned for May. However, concerns are growing. Many question the timing, given ongoing sanctions by Western nations. Reports suggest that Prime Minister Takaishi has consulted advisors and former officials, including those with pro-Russian positions. Some believe she may move forward with Russian oil purchases. Meanwhile, a major call took place between Iran's Foreign Minister Araki and Russia's Sergei Lavrov. They discussed coordination and blocking any United Nations resolution that would authorize offensive military action in the Strait of Hormuz. These discussions are happening openly. Recent reports also indicate that France may align with China and Russia to block any UN Security Council resolution supporting military action in the region. French President Emmanuel Macron has already refused to allow the use of French airspace or bases for the conflict. He warned that entering the Strait of Hormuz would be extremely dangerous, potentially leading to massive casualties and an endless war. Macron emphasized that this crisis resulted from Trump acting alone and failing to secure the region at the start of the conflict. Responsibility, he argues, lies entirely with Trump. Further developments highlight Trump's alignment with Putin. Vice President J. Vance is scheduled to visit Hungary to support Viktor Orban ahead of upcoming elections. Critics argue this mirrors past efforts, such as support for Germany's AfD party, which has called for removing U.S. military bases. Foreign Policy magazine recently reported that Trump is losing the Iran conflict, noting that Iran is effectively succeeding by simply enduring. Meanwhile, Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk warned of serious consequences. He pointed to NATO instability, reduced sanctions on Russia, rising energy crises in Europe, halted aid to Ukraine, and financial blocs affecting Kyiv. He described these developments as aligning with Putin's strategy. Trump's actions include lifting sanctions, allowing Russian oil expansion, inviting Russian officials to Washington, and permitting Russian tankers into Cuba while blocking U.S. allies. Concerns are growing that Russia may also be supplying weapons to Cuba. The situation echoes historical tensions, yet current actions appear to reverse previous U.S. strategies. Instead of maintaining strong positions, Trump's decisions have enabled Russia to bypass restrictions easily. Cuban citizens benefited from Russian aid, while U.S. allies were blocked. This shift allowed Putin to gain influence and public support in the region. Another major development involves energy policy. The Trump administration is allocating nearly $1 billion in taxpayer funds to a French energy company, Total Energies, to cancel offshore wind projects. These projects, located near New York and North Carolina, would have powered over 1 million homes with clean energy. Instead, the company is redirecting that funding into fossil fuel investments. This includes oil drilling in the Gulf, increased natural gas exports, and expanded gas-powered energy production. Essentially, public funds are being used to halt renewable energy efforts and expand fossil fuel use. State leaders have criticized this move, calling it unacceptable. They argue that the government is effectively paying companies not to build clean energy infrastructure. This decision comes at a time when global instability is already increasing oil prices, while experts stress that renewable energy improves long-term security. This situation raises serious concerns. Public money is being used in ways that contradict climate goals. The debate continues over whether investments should prioritize sustainable energy instead. Additional geopolitical shifts are also taking place. As Russia and China grow stronger and the United States appears weaker, Gulf nations are reconsidering their security strategies. The GCC countries are now discussing forming their own defense systems as confidence in U.S. protection declines. Trump continues to claim strong support for allies, but the damage caused by his policies in the Middle East is measured in trillions of dollars. Jordan's parliament speaker has proposed a regional defense and economic agreement among Arab nations to counter Iran's growing influence. Iran is emerging from this conflict with increased control over the Strait of Hormuz. This gives it significant power over global oil supply and pricing. Arab nations are now seeking ways to create their own deterrent systems in response to a weakened United States. France continues to oppose military escalation. Macron has stressed the need for stability and consistent policy. He criticized Trump's repeated contradictions and urged a more measured approach. His message was clear. Leadership requires consistency and restraint. He also warned that reopening the Strait of Hormuz through force is unrealistic. Such an operation would take an extended period and expose forces to serious risks. France believes coordination with Iran is necessary to resolve the situation. At the same time, Trump has continued military actions, including targeting infrastructure. These actions have been widely criticized. Despite pushing for negotiations, Iran has refused to engage in ceasefire discussions. Iran has outlined strict conditions. These include full security guarantees, no attacks on its allies, retention of its military capabilities, control over the Strait of Hormuz, and financial reparations. These demands remain non-negotiable. Trump has also sought assistance from Pakistan to initiate talks. Pakistan attempted to help by reaching out to Kamal Karazi, a former Iranian foreign minister believed to have influence. However, after his involvement became known, a targeted strike severely injured him and killed his wife. This event further undermined diplomatic efforts. Similar patterns have occurred before, where negotiation attempts were followed by military escalation. This has reduced trust and limited future dialogue opportunities. Meanwhile, China continues to strengthen its position. It has criticized U.S. military actions and blamed them for disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz. At the same time, Trump has expressed interest in improving relations with China, creating a contradictory stance. As these events unfold, financial impacts are becoming clear. According to the Financial Times, foreign central banks are reducing their holdings of U.S. Treasury bonds. This trend reflects growing concerns about economic stability. Since late February, holdings have dropped significantly. Countries are selling U.S. bonds to support their own economies during the Iran conflict. This shift indicates declining confidence in U.S. financial stability. We will continue to monitor these developments closely and provide updates as the situation evolves. Subscribe to stay informed and support independent reporting. Thank you for watching.